Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing cards I made using Simple Stories Summer Farmhouse 6x6 paper pad, and I also picked up the Bits and Pieces ephemera pack. This is a beautiful collection, lots of bright, cheerful colors. I love all the summer theme papers. I'm just going to flip through this real quick. Simple Stories does include a lot of full page images, like this one here. I don't have any use for those. I know some people like to put them in their scrapbooks or maybe frame them. But for me, I'm just going to use the opposite side of the paper. There are a few sheets of cut-aparts. These are all 3 by 4 inches in size, and I will be using most of them on my cards. Almost all of the cards I make using this paper collection will be donated to a local charity. Since they will be adding a message inside the cards and mailing them out, I'll make sure to keep them nice and flat so they don't have to pay anything extra in postage. And here's just a quick look at all the ephemera pieces, and I don't end up using all of them, probably about half. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first set of cards. I'm using a sketch from Mojo Monday. This is number 543. And I won't show the process of assembling all the cards. I'm just going to show one of each design. One thing that's really nice about using 6x8 paper is you can easily create multiple cards. This lemon pattern paper is my favorite in the whole pack, so I wanted to make sure to feature that one first. I paired it with this teal polka dot paper on the side, and I'm using a few Love from Lizi teal mirror peel-offs to add some beautiful shine and separation between those two pattern papers. For this strip going across the card, I have this yellow plaid or checkered design. I didn't cut the full piece since I knew the part underneath this image wasn't going to be seen. So that's a great way to save on some paper. This is one of the cut-aparts, and I use a stitched rectangle die to trim it down just a little bit. They are fairly large if you use that full 3 by 4 inch size. I'm just layering that in some cardstock. I'm going to add my card front onto a card base and leave just that 1/8 of an inch of the card base showing. And now just to add a little extra sparkle and shine, I'm using some of the Mini Stars Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is a great way to add some embellishment without any extra dimension. And I'll also add some sparkle to the lemonade in the little cup using a Nuvo Shimmer pen. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. And this is a very flat card, so it's not going to need any additional postage when mailed. Now moving on to the next set of cards. This sketch is from MFT. It's number 494. I love this cheerful cherry paper, so I wanted to make sure to feature that on a few cards. I'm using some red polka dot paper for the background and adding this red checkered paper across the back. Instead of adding the cardstock layer behind that red checkered paper, I'm going to use some red mirror peel-offs. So it still adds that contrast without the extra dimension. And since the middle part, you're not going to see it, that oval's going to cover it up. This is a great time to use up some of those smaller peel-off pieces. I also cut the oval, that red oval, out of that background piece. Since you're not going to see it, it's all going to be covered up. And without adding all those extra cardstock layers, I'm not needing to add more cardstock pieces underneath to level out the pieces, since everything is fairly flat. For this sentiment, I'm using a stamp set from Pink and Maine, and then the thanks die is by Paper Rose. I used some green cardstock for that outline piece, and then some white pearlescent paper for the word thanks. So it'll add a little extra shimmer. Just glue those two together, and then I'll glue it directly on my card, off to the right just a little bit, and then I'll add the sentiment right underneath. The charity I'm donating cards to uses a lot of general and thank you sentiments, so I was really trying to focus on those. And I did add just a little banner in the upper left-hand corner and made a total of 4 cards using this sketch. Now moving on to the next set of cards. This sketch is by Sketch Saturday. It's number 322. I love this sentiment on the cut apart. Have a bright, sunshiny day. So I thought that would work perfectly on a card and add a lot of extra sparkle. I'm using some yellow honeycomb paper for the background. And for those really thin strips that are indicated on the sketch, I'm adding some Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is the gold holographic color and it's beautiful, super sparkly. Most of the peel-offs are going to be covered up with that cut apart, so I don't need to have full strips. I do like to have that first strip across the card, that way I can make sure to get all three of them straight. I'm going to add this panel onto this beautiful iridescent mirror card by Tonic Studios. This is their Inca gold color, so it's a gold holographic look. It's beautiful. I did use a rectangle die and cut out the center of that specialty paper so I can use it on another project later. And then I put some scrap cardstock in that gap just so there wouldn't be that noticeable dip on the card. I'll adhere my cut apart to the card, and if you notice this sketch, it is designed for a square card, but since I rarely make square cards, I just figured out the measurements for an A2 size card instead. If you are interested in any of the sketches along with the measurements, I do share all of that information on my coordinating blog post, and that link is provided in the description box below. To finish off this card, I added a couple gold glitter star peel-offs and then also some shimmer pen to the sun. Moving on to the next set of cards. The sketch is by OWH, it's number 93. I'm using this beautiful floral paper for the background and then just adding a strip of this yellow polka dot paper along the right hand side. I'll use a few of Love from Lizi's blue mirror peel-offs. Just put one right along the edge of that yellow polka dot paper. I like to tuck the ends behind the back, that way I'm sure it's not going to fall off later on the card, even though I've never had one actually fall off before. I'll add my card front onto a card base. Next I'll add one of the cut aparts. The reason I selected this sketch is it had that larger panel that would be perfect for those cut aparts. And since this cut apart is on the busier side with the red plaid and the floral, it's really nice to have that solid cardstock behind. And this is another specialty cardstock from Tonic Studio. It has a beautiful red satin finish. Then to finish off the card, I'm using some more of the gold glitter star peel-offs. Just put a few of them around the sentiment. And there is the finished card, and I did make 4 using this sketch. For the other 2 cards, I used a fun strawberry cut apart. As you can see, most of my card designs are very simple, but this works perfectly for what the charity needs. Moving on to the next set of cards, I'm not going to use a card sketch this time, but I am going to create a little scene. So this is the one card that's going to have a little extra dimension. I'll be using some of the teal polka dot paper for the sky, and then I have some solid green cardstock for the grass. And I'm going to layer this using some more iridescent mirror card. This is the water Sprite color, and it's beautiful. It has a lovely bluish green color. I did cut out the center so I can use that on a future project. Then I filled in that gap with some scrap cardstock. I used a border die from Queen & Company to create my little stitched hill. And now I pulled out an assortment of ephemera pieces. I thought this was perfect for creating a little outdoor scene, and I love this pink bicycle. I actually own a pink bicycle with the basket, so I had to use this piece. So first I just laid out all of the pieces I'm going to use, and then I can start assembling them. I'm going to have the sun behind the clouds, and the cloud on the right is actually going to go off of the card. I just went ahead and snipped that off real quick. I'm going to pop up that right hand side cloud using some thin foam squares. This is my favorite brand of foam dimension since it's not as thick as traditional foam tape. So you still could add a little bit of dimension and not have to pay anything extra for postage. I'm going to also pop up the bicycle. I love that there's 2 different sizes of the squares, but if you need an even smaller piece, you can easily cut any of those foam pieces. I used some liquid adhesive to glue the sunny day sentiment down, and then I'll pop up the flowers and put them in the lower right hand corner. And now just a finishing touch, I'm using some of the mini stars. This is the clear glitter iridescent color. They add a beautiful sparkle. Don't have a lot of color to them, but I like the extra sparkle. I have a few of them by the bicycle and then a couple of them up by the sun. So there is the finished card, and I did make two using the same design and just some different ephemera pieces. Still created a little outdoor scene. Now moving on to my next set of cards. This sketch is by Mojo Monday. It's number 522. I have this fun watermelon cut apart. I did trim it down just a little bit so it'd fit nicer on the card. And I also have this bright watermelon paper. For the background, I'm using some light pink cardstock. I used a stitch diagonal die from Reverse Confetti to add the extra detail. And now I'll add just a couple of the pink iridescent glitter peel-offs. Just putting two of them on the lower portion of the card for that little extra sparkle. The nice thing about the glitter peel-offs is it's all sealed, so you're not going to have any loose glitter at all. I'll layer all of these pieces using some red cardstock. For the cut apart, I did decide to layer it with some green just to pull out more of the green in the watermelon. I'll go ahead and put my card front onto a card base. For most of my layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements that are listed on the sketch. Now I do change up the measurements all the time just to fit whatever papers I'm using at the time. And to finish off the card, I'm adding some more of those mini stars. This is the silver mirror color. And I did make a total of 4 cards using this sketch. For the other 2 cards, I used that fun swimsuit flip-flop cut apart. And since that swimsuit and also the watermelon background paper were on the busier side, it was nice to have that solid cardstock in the background. Moving on to the next set of cards, this is a sketch from Queen & Company. I'm not going to be following this one very closely. I'm really using it more for inspiration. I really like this background paper. It's in a denim color with a bunch of different summer sentiments all over it. I wanted to make sure you'd be able to read some of those sentiments, so I don't want to cover up too much. So I decided to flip this sketch and have it horizontal instead. And then I have 2 banners using 2 different pattern papers. I'm still going to use that circle element. So I have some white pearlescent paper for the smaller circle, and then I layered it with some blue cardstock. For the image, I'm using another one of the ephemera pieces. There's this beautiful bouquet with a little bee on the side. Just glued that right onto the circle, and then I'm going to add a few of the silver mirror mini stars. I'll put a couple of them in the lower right hand corner. You can't really see them on the video, but with the light hitting them just right, it does have a little extra sparkle. And I'm using some shimmer pen on the flowers and also the wings of the bee. So very simple design. I decided to skip the sentiment since there's already words all over the background. I did make a total of 4 cards using this sketch. I love the strawberry preserves. I thought that was really fun. So moving on to the next set of cards, this is a sketch from Queen & Company. And Queen & Company sketches were designed to coordinate with their foundation die sets. I love all of their foundation die sets and use them all the time. And I will have links provided in the description box for most of the products used in the video. Since I love this lemon paper, I wanted to feature it again. So I'm using some of the yellow checkered paper for the background, and then that lemon paper will go across the card. Just layering all of this using some green cardstock. I will be following this sketch exactly, so all of the dies I'm using for this card are from one of Queen & Company's foundation die sets. Or I think it might be from several of them. And then I'll attach the lemon paper across the card. Then using some of the stitched circle dies, I have the larger white circle from some white pearlescent paper, and then just some solid cardstock for the yellow and the green. Now since that lower portion of 2 of the circles is going off of those other layers, I do want to add some of the scrap cardstock. That way all of those pieces will be nice and level on the card. I had considered not using that green cardstock underneath the lemon paper, but there wasn't enough contrast with the lemon paper and that yellow checkered paper. So I felt I needed to add it, and I didn't have a peel-off color that was an exact match. The sentiment stamp is from Queen & Company's Fruit Basket Kit. This is "Thank you, you are the zest." Thought that was perfect to go with all of the lemons on this card. So I'm adding the lemon ephemera piece, and I'm just putting little pieces of scrap cardstock wherever I feel it needs that extra little boost, keeping everything nice and level. And I'll finish off the card by adding some more of the clear iridescent glitter mini star peel-offs. Put a couple of them on those circle die cuts. I have a few in the lower left-hand corner and then one by the sentiment. Now for the second card, wasn't completely paying attention when I assembled it. I accidentally put that lemon paper the other direction, but I think it still turned out just fine. So moving on to the next set of cards. This is a sketch from Mojo Monday. It's number 541. I'm using some more beautiful floral paper for the background, and for this wider strip, I'm using the colorful stripe paper, and I have a little more of that yellow polka dot paper to go across the card. I'll add some scrap cardstock on the right and left hand side of that yellow polka dot paper where it goes off of that stripe paper. Trying to keep everything nice and level. I didn't want to add any more cardstock layers since I already have a couple on this card. I'll use some of the yellow iridescent glitter peel-offs and put one strip across the top and bottom of this yellow polka dot paper. Tuck the ends behind and then attach my card panel onto the blue cardstock layer. And I'll put my card front onto a card base. And for most of the cards, I am leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the card base showing. For the image box, I have some more of the white pearlescent paper, layered that on some blue cardstock. And just that upper right-hand corner was going off of those other layers, so I did add a small scrap of cardstock underneath there. I'll be adding a few more of the ephemera pieces. I have the watering can with the bouquet, and then also a sentiment. This is Simple Pleasures. I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to adhere both of those down. I'll put the watering can down first, and then I'll attach the sentiment to the lower right-hand corner. And finishing touch, adding some more of these beautiful mini stars. The silver mirror color is so far the one I've been using the most. I am completely addicted to Love from Lizi peel-offs, and I use them all the time. So there are the finished cards, and I did make 2 using this sketch. Now even with the cardstock layers that I added to this card, it's still nice and flat and won't require any extra postage. Now moving on to the next set of cards, I'm using one of my favorite dies. This is by Pretty Pink Posh. It's their Stacked Edges border die, and this is set number 1. They have 2 different sets, and I love both of them. If you've watched my videos before, you know I use this die set all the time. So I have a piece of white cardstock. This is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I cut out all of these strips using the leftover pattern paper. I do have a little bit after this. I just put some ATG all over the white cardstock, and now I'm stacking each of these die cuts on top. For that final piece, I'll put a little bit of liquid adhesive just to make sure that it's going to stay in place. Now I'll flip over the panel, use my scissors, and run it along that white cardstock to trim off the extra. So using all of that beautiful pattern paper, you can create these lovely backgrounds. It's a great way to feature lots of different pattern papers. I'm going to layer this on some more of that specialty red satin paper. Add the little scrap of cardstock in the gap. And for this card, I'm not going to have any of the white card base showing. I wanted to have a little more of that specialty paper. I'm using another one of the cut-aparts. I have a stitched rectangle die that I used to trim that down. And I'll layer that on some more of the red cardstock. So this was a piece I was able to use from the piece that I cut out of the background. And then just to finish off the card, I'm adding some more of the Love from Lizi mini star peel-offs. Super simple, but it has a lot of detail and shine. I was able to make 2 cards using the leftover scraps. Now here is everything that I currently have left over. So it's not a lot. I still have a couple of the cut-aparts, but I end up not using those and I use the backside instead. I'll be using a die from Whimsy Stamps. This is their Peekaboo Windows die number 2. So it cuts out this fun frame, and then you're able to add a few different pieces of pattern paper inside those openings. I'm just going to layer this piece on some silver mirror cardstock, and then I'll add this onto my card base. And then I have an assortment of pieces that I've already cut out using some of the leftover scraps. And then the sentiment is from Lawn Fawn, so I've already gone ahead and stamped that out. I'll just put some adhesive on the back side of the squares and fill them into the frame. Whenever I just have those small scraps left over, I do run them through my die cut machine one at a time. Sometimes I'll use a small piece of washi tape to hold them in place, but generally I just lay them on top and they don't usually move. So finishing touch, I'm adding a few flowers. These are dies from Queen & Company. It's their foundation die set number 2. I cut them out of some teal cardstock and also some of the small scraps of that teal polka dot paper. So I'll layer 2 of the flowers, and instead of adding bling to the inside of the flowers, I'm using some of Love from Lizi peel-offs. This is the silver glitter mini circle style. So it still adds that beautiful sparkle without the extra dimension. It's so fun that you can see that silver mirror cardstock through the stitch detail on the Whimsy Stamps die. I always enjoy using dies like this to finish off the last of the scraps. So I did make a total of 2 cards, and that pretty much finished up this paper. So here is everything that is left over, just 5 small pieces, and those will be donated to my daughter so she can use them for some of her projects. In addition to the paper pad, I also used 9 sheets of 8.5 by 11 and 6 sheets of 12 by 12 solid colored cardstock. A total of 30 cards were made using Simple Stories Summer Farmhouse 6 by 8 paper pad. I had so much fun using this bright and cheerful paper collection, and the cards are going to be perfect to donate to a local charity. I have provided links in the description box for most of the products used in this video. I have at least 1 or 2 more videos that are summer themed. Then I am diving right into fall and Christmas cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.